Welcome to some adventures in wireless PCAP, or maybe, shall we say, misadventures, depending on your point of view. So I'm George Cragg. I'm a network engineer with a medical device company near Boston, Andover, Mass. And we make medical devices that go on hospital networks. So that's what we do. I'm on the product side, not the IT side. So I worry about the products that we make sure they meet standards, compliance, as well as do troubleshooting for customers as well. A couple of traces that we have are available on GitHub. They're not that exciting, but they're made available if you'd like to get them. So there they are. So C-story time. So what I wanted to cover is using our favorite tool to solve real world problems. This is a real problem we had to solve. Most of it's true, right? We embellish a little bit to make it a better story, but in general, it's true, except for parts I made up. A little bit about engineering best practice as well. I find we need to inject a little bit more of that into the problem solving that we do in my area. So we'll talk about some of that. A little introduction to 802.11 group traffic. There's some tricks for kids there that we should talk about so we understand what's happening. This is a multicast discussion, but I think you'll find it's a little bit bait and switch the way that multicast is handled with Wi-Fi. So, and some other tips and tricks that I come across while I do this wireless packet capture all the time. I'm responsible for both wired and wireless. However, I spend the vast majority of my time on wireless, right? I'm going to say it's 10 times more complicated than wired. It's everything you have in wired and then smack 802.11 right on top of it with its own, many thousand-page IEEE document on specifications. So this is my case of a missing data in the database. So this is the problem we're going to look at. So I have a Wi-Fi client, right, called a station. It connects to an AP, right? That's called DS, the distributed system, right? So we then traverse a wired network into a database. So the client sends data, obviously over 802.11, to the AP, traverses the wired network, hits the database. In this particular issue, the wireless client produces IPv4 UDP data. That's somewhat important to our discussion here, is that it's UDP data for storage in the database. So what's a symptom? What's the complaint here? Not all the data is making it in the database. Contrast that to it never makes it in. That's a different problem. I don't have that problem. I have the harder problem of variance in that some of the data or most of the data makes it in the database, but not all of the data make it into the database. Okay, so it's a tougher problem. So I've got to deal with that. So a little bit about root cause, though. I'm going to use the term root cause, but I got to tell you, my job really isn't about root cause. I wish it was. It's really about problem isolation. That's what I'm in business for. That's what I found over my career. So root cause is like an onion. It has layers, right? You've heard of that comment, the term like 5 whys. You ask 5 whys to figure out what true root cause is, right? At the network level of where I work, I typically don't get root cause. What I'm able to do is isolate the problem to the specific device or system or whatever, what have you. So, you say cut the problem in half, and it's generally true. But for me, there's 3 buckets I like to put problems into at first cut of root cause. Is it a wireless client issue? Is it the wireless network issue, or is it a wired network issue? Yes, sir. Yeah. Sorry. It sounds terrible to me, but sorry. Any better? Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry, obviously it sounds terrible to me. What is that? Sorry. It looked okay there, right? Sorry, okay. Maybe better. Okay, yes, that sounds better to me. Thank you. So it's not an exhaustive list of those 3 things. It's just the initial bucket I want to put things into, but there's other reasons we could have failures for sure. And then, as you know, ask each responsible group if they are at fault. And what do you get? Right? What do you get? You get this, right? It's real. Like, it is not fake. And we sell into hospitals. So I make the devices, but what does the hospital have? They've got some groups, Cisco, Extreme, Aruba, whatever Wi-Fi system that they bought. Great. So they bought from that vendor, but they're responsible for configuration, right? And then the wired network's the same. They bought somebody's, say Cisco switches, routers, whatever, right? But they own the configuration. So we get all the groups together, right? All of us together and, try to figure out what's going on. I like to think I'm objective about the whole thing, but if you talk to those vendors, they won't agree, right? That's fine. The life we live in. But Wireshark's a big help, right? It's tough to, when you got objective evidence, it's tough to deny. So some more things we need, just a refresher, as you know, there's 3 types of traffic in wired world. Unicast point-to-point, right? One-to-one. Broadcast one-to-all, by convention. We know how that's done. And then, of course, you have multicast, which is more complex, more flexible. That's 1 to N, where N can be anywhere from 0 to all, whatever it might be. It's harder to deal with. You need pruning protocols and other things to make that work, and that's fine. And we know the definitions here, right? How do you define these? In general, with exceptions, it's the destination MAC address, tells you what type of traffic you're dealing with, right? So broadcast, all Fs for the destination MAC. Multicast is 01005E, and then the last 3 can be whatever. And unicast is pretty much everything else, but that's not really true. There are exceptions to that rule. That's wired. In wireless, it's a little bit different, right? We basically have 2 types of traffic we have to deal with. Unicast, point-to-point, and then group. Broadcast and multicast are lumped together, right, from this context. Now, at the device level or the host stack level, right, they could still differentiate, and that's fine. But we have a network view, network context, 2 types of traffic we have to deal with. So what are the implications? Unicast traffic. All data to DS is unicast. So what does that mean? DS is a distributed system, which is the AP. So all traffic that a client sends to the access point, no matter what type it really is treated as unicast. So even if it's that broadcast ARP, right, it's going out, it's treated as unicast. Okay, so what does that mean to me, right? It will try to use the highest supported data rates. So when a client, a station, associates to an access point, they don't so much negotiate, but they announce their capabilities of what they can do. How many spatial streams, LDPC, whatever, how many, the channel bandwidth, 80 megahertz, 160, whatever capabilities, and they both know. And so then they'll both be able to decide what's the highest set of data rates they can use to communicate to each other. And that's what we want. And that's what you see advertised when they talk about it. When you go in the store and you see the Linksys or Netgear routers or whatever, and they say, 2800 or whatever, those data rates, it's kind of that. To get anything close to that, and by the way, for performance, that's a different discussion, but wireless network engineers lie to you when we talk about performance, but that's okay. To get anything close to that, you have to use unicast traffic, so that's no trouble, right? Also, another advantage of unicast traffic is it's a reliable data stream. When it's unicast, it's protected by an 802.11 ACK. So not unlike a TCP retransmission, when you put a frame in the air and it's unicast, you wait to get an ACK, an 802.11 layer. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be ARP, could be UDP, could be multicast, could be TCP, anything. When it's treated as unicast 802.11, you get that reliability feature. So typically clients will retry, or access points, radios will retry probably around 8 times, sometimes more. And if you don't get an ACK within 8 times, then you just drop it. And there you go. So that's typical. Also, if you're using WPA, which of course you are, right? No one's not using encryption and security with their Wi-Fi. If you're using WPA 2 or 3, so I use X, you key index 0 is used for unicast traffic. So imagine each client connects to the AP, right? Each one gets a distinct unicast key because we want security and to be able to hide ourselves from each other as well. And that's considered key index 0. So it just helps for filtering. We'll see that a little later, but that helps with filtering. Now, group traffic, what's the difference? Only from DS can send true group traffic. So only the access point can actually send group traffic. No client can send group traffic at 802.11. It's all unicast. But here, the AP can actually send. He has a choice. He can send it as unicast or group. What does this mean for us? I don't get those super duper 802.11 AC wave 2 or AX or whatever's coming next, Wi-Fi 7 rates. You don't get those. you get the highest basic rate, which is typically a 11A, a B, or a G rate. That's what you get. The reason is for reliability. I get a little graph coming up for that in a second, but that's why. So it's significantly different. And if you can imagine, what's the critical resource that we have in the Wi-Fi world that we have to protect? Well, what don't I have enough of that I always want? Is channel utilization. When you're at 100% utilization of the channel, there's no more. It's a shared medium. Everybody on that channel can use it, whether they're on your network or not. Anything you see affects you, and you affect everything else. It's half duplex, too. So we like high data rates because I get to get on the network, do my work quickly. High data rates means that given amount of data goes faster, right? I get to do my work faster and then get off the network and make it available to someone else. Keeps channel utilization low. Channel utilization starts getting really high. Wi-Fi is not so good. Nobody's happy. Okay. So here I'm using low basic rates, which means to send the same amount of data, it takes longer. So not that attractive from this standpoint. There's also no protection. It's best effort. He sends it once and you either got it or you didn't. There's no protection here. And then finally, we use key index 1 or 2, and it toggles depending on how they want to change. But that key index is actually in the frame coming across. So you can tell the other side which key to use to decrypt. So it's there. So we can make use of this when we do filtering. So some comments. Imagine multiple clients, which is really what happens. Some further away, right? So there's 2 here, right? Data rate is dynamic. That's certainly true. As you get further away, your signal strength drops. You're not able to support as high a data rates, so those will fall. So it's a function of distance. And so, when you're sending one frame to everyone, what data rate would you use? When it's unicast, I'm sending it just to you. I get to figure out, a little bit about the health of you. And I would do that through signal strength indication or a number of retries I've sent before, and I can reduce the data rate to you to improve quality because lower data rate frames go further with higher reliability. But I only get to send one here with group traffic. So that's why he picks that basic rate. The highest basic rate is typical. Some systems allow you to adjust that. You can go and tune whatever you might want. But for unicast, it's actually a rate selection algorithm. Secret sauce. Linux uses Minstrel, what have you for the different vendors, and rate selection per station. It's not always obvious what they're going to use. So where does this basic rate show up? Just as example in packet capture, right? Here's a beacon. It's in one of them. If you look under supported rates in a beacon, he will postfix the channel. Wireshark will postfix the channel with a B. So I only have one basic rate. So from this BSSID, when he sends group traffic, I set the expectation that it should all be at 11 megabits per second. So, okay, no trouble. That's where it is. So another optimization strategy that's quite common, right? So these are tricks for kids in the group traffic world here with Wi-Fi, is they convert to unicast. They call it multicast to unicast conversion, but typically, actually, they do it for broadcast as well. Not always, but typically. So let's say you have a single multicast frame coming into the AP from the wired side. Remember, the AP is doing a bridging operation, Wi-Fi to wired, right? It would strip off the 802.11 header, put on the Ethernet 2 header, and then deliver it to the wire, go in the opposite direction, does the opposite. Ethernet 2 header gets converted to 802.11 header, right? And put out over the airwaves, over the RF. So if they want to convert to unicast, you imagine one multicast frame in, he'll then convert that to unicast and unicast it to each device. That's actually quite common to do. So when you're looking at packet captures, this kind of behavior is important to understand what's happening, so you can see what happens. So obviously it makes it more reliable, right? Because I get that ACK mechanism now because it's unicast traffic. And also it could go faster because I can get a better data rate because I'm unicast too. So it can help. It can. Does not scale, obviously, right? With a couple of devices, it's great. It's nice to convert. But if you have 50, 100 devices, all of a sudden it doesn't make sense anymore. You can actually do the math and work out where the optimal, strategy would be. Also, I noticed I have to be careful with level 1 support for this reason, right? If multicast is mentioned. So in the beginning, I said, what's my problem? UDP traffic. I didn't say multicast. It actually is multicast traffic, but from station to AP, it's treated as unicast. So when I mention multicast to level 1 support, when I'm troubleshooting these issues, so the first thing they say is, oh, I know about that. I know about Wi-Fi and multicast. You need to change your basic rate. No, 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 no. Not in this case, because I don't have true multicast traffic. They're thinking about it the other way. So I always avoid saying multicast to them. And I'll say UDP, unless it's true multicast in the other direction. Because as anybody deal with support here, right? You get turns of support. Like you put the ticket in with whatever vendor and they come back with questions and you got to do something and you get another turn and those turns go on for weeks and weeks and months sometimes, right? It's crazy, right? Let's just cut out this multicast turn that I don't have to deal with here. So, and WPA can be affected too. If you choose WPA, your group traffic could end up at TKIP and not AES, which you probably don't want. Let's focus on AES only. I guess at least it's not web, but. Okay, so what I like about the key index is I get a simple group traffic filter. So I have my BSSID I can put up there. This is just some tips and tricks. I like to slice because I can remember the last 2 octets of my SSID or BSSID, sorry. I can remember that instead of remembering all of them. And so I slice it. And then if the web key, although that's the WPA key as well, just a naming difference, that's what Wireshark calls it, that's fine. If I say greater than 0, 0 is the unicast key. So if I say greater than 0, that means give me any group traffic. The only traffic I would actually see would be group traffic from the AP coming down. That's all I would see with that filter. So just a quick way for me to get to see what kind of group traffic I have going on. There's also no IGMP filter support at this level, right? It's a shared medium like a hub. So when that group frame hits the airwave, you're getting it, whether you like it or not. Okay, it's coming. What you do with it's your business. If there's too much of it and it hurts your battery life, that we see that as well, then so be it. It's coming. There's no way to filter it once it hits the air, right? It's got that BSSID. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to take it. And 8 to 11 power save mechanisms have a big play in this as well, but for another day. So group traffic data rates in Trace I gave you. It's not very exciting because it meets our expectation. It should be 11, and I plotted min, average, max. Everything's at 11. So for this particular Wi-Fi infrastructure, behaves the way we expected, which is good. All traffic at 11, and it comes out of this trace we're going to look at in detail here in a minute. So just graph the data rate so you can see what the AP is doing. So last piece that we need, we have the concept of virtual carrier sense. So with Wi-Fi, we have CSMA, which you've all heard of, CA, collision avoidance, which is different than wired, which is collision detection. So here I have another layer or another signal or trigger to tell hosts that the carrier is busy. And that's this virtual carrier sense with this duration field. So in the 802.11 header, there's a duration field where I can put a time in microseconds of where I want to reserve the medium. So that when clients come up and they want to transmit, they have to do their clear channel assessment, their CCA. And if it's free, then there's a certain set of rules and they can transmit. But this is another way I could tell someone. So imagine you come up and you see this. There's no point in even doing your clear channel assessment until that timer expires because he reserved the medium. So you can do what? You can go into low power mode. You can go to sleep. You can do whatever you have to do to manage yourself. And reduces the amount of physical carrier sensings that you have to do. So this is kind of a nice feature that they added. So we kind of use this information around us to figure out, am I allowed to transmit? Not, how's the timing going? And we do see issues with this. So it comes up. So the last thing we need. So back to our problem. Okay, station produced multicast is not making it to the database. It is multicast, but it's UDP, but it's going to the AP, so it's unicast, and it's only sometimes. So I have variance that makes it harder to look at, right? It's not all the time. So what am I responsible for here in my test? Well, in fact, remember COVID 2020? Everybody worked from home. I know I did. We were all sent home for a few months. So I'm home and I have this device, and I've got trying to do some work at home as best I can without my lab. And so, in fact, this is my family room that I convert to my lab. My wife loved that, by the way. And so I'm responsible actually for everything there at the end of the day because it's a lab. In the real life, in a hospital, not so, right? But for me, in my testing, I'm responsible for everything. The station clients, because I work for that company. The wired network I set up, the database platform, we make that too, right? Configuring the wireless platform, I do that. Did I screw it up? Maybe, could be, right? Maybe that's why it's not working, is my mistake. Okay, and of course I have to detect or reproduce the problem. But again, in real life, different people would be responsible for different parts. And, we get the usual, somebody else. So, likely faults, it's every one of those could be broken, right? Client is not sending the frames. But if I ask those developers, what are they going to say? Of course we do, right? We've been doing this for 20 years, longer than you've been with the company. It's fine, right? AP is not forwarding the frames. What's the the wireless vendor says, oh, of course we do that. And if we don't, it's because the customer configured it wrong, right? So double denial. No, it's fine, right? It's fine. This is the good guys. So wired network is misconfigured. That's certainly true. Possible. I learned the hard way that there's a strong interaction between spanning tree and IGMP. And if you're moving a lot of multicast, you're going to know that pretty quick if you don't take action on that. Database platform is broken. Yeah, that was a good discussion to have with those guys. Environmental issue too. Again, I'm in my family room. I see very little traffic around me, which is kind of nice. But in a hospital, they have break rooms for the nurses. Well, imagine they just put a microwave in. It wasn't there when we did the site survey. It's been working fine for 4 years. They put the microwave in there yesterday, and now your solution sucks because it doesn't work. Well, okay, we got to figure this out, right? So anyway, it can happen, and I got to figure out what bucket we're going into. So back to our problem. So how do we attack? I had a hypothesis. The AP is not forwarding the traffic from one side to the other. Now, how do I know that? Well, the reason I know that is because I went through this whole analysis at the end and got to the end and determined it was them. Okay, just a heads up, that's where we're headed. But they don't know that yet. And so I make that assumption. I say, okay, this is what I think it is. That's my evidence. Let's call the vendor. Let's see what we get. Let's call the vendor. So level one, our WLAN platform doesn't drop traffic. Of course it doesn't, right? No, you've got millions of installations all around the world. That's fine. You make millions of access points a year. Okay. Missing multicast can be remedied by decreasing the maximum basic rate. Go do that and try it. No, not relevant here. And of course, well, your wired network's broken. You said it's multicast. So how do we know your IGMP is good? Right. Okay. So the support volley comes back to me. Okay, it's not a basic rate issue. Okay, we get through that. Wired network is fine. In all fairness to them, I know that. They don't. I take action to make sure that's okay. I have data to prove it, but that's fine. Of course, at this level, I never find stuff in logs. And don't get me wrong. One well-placed log file message can save me hours, days of work, right? And combing through packet captures. And I'd much rather have that log file entry, but the reality is I just don't get them that often. And even when I do get them, if it's a system I'm not familiar with, I can't interpret the log file message anyway. Like, I don't know exactly what that means and the implications without reverse engineering and doing testing. So, because I've maybe you guys agree, maybe you don't. People who come to this conference like us think about problems different than, let's say, a developer does. He only thinks about it in terms of his logs and what his device is doing. When I ask about network behavior, oh, I don't know, I just write it. What do you mean? Well, it goes across the network. Somebody 15 years ago wrote a network library, which is very good, but he just uses that. He has actually no idea how the data gets on the network. Is using TCP, UDP. They just don't know, right? Because they don't work at that level. And that's fine, but we just look at problems different. So sometimes there's a communication barrier, I find, between the developers and myself on where we're going. So anyway, nothing interesting in logs. So evaluation. So I propose to them, let's wrap the device. Concept of a control volume. Let's look at what's going in. Let's look at what's coming out. And then we'll know, right? We evaluate. Easy. No trouble. We say easy, right? A vendor agrees, but he doesn't want my packet capture. Okay. I think that's a problem, but okay. Who am I? Most enterprise level APs, and they're only doing more, all have the ability to capture packets one way or another, some way through the radios on the wired side, whatever they're doing internal. And I know why they do it, because most end customers don't have the capability of people like this organization, right? They just don't. They can't get packets like that, or they got to hire consultants or whatever. So all the companies that you guys work for are lucky because they have people like us, so we can look at packets. But not everyone has that. They just don't. So my experience, though, is that there's always an Achilles heel to this packet capture that they do. There's always something that doesn't quite work, that isn't quite as good. So what I'm able to do is he sets up, does his thing, I do my thing, I'm able to replicate, and I say, yep, we just saw an issue. And yeah, guess what? He confirmed that he's not dropping traffic. Surprise, right? Okay. Yeah, he confirmed they're not doing it. So how did he do it? Well, I can give him the crypto material, right? It's a lab. You know, it's my family room over COVID. So I can give him the PSK, he can decrypt. I know the multicast MAC address for data that is missing. And so how do I know that? Well, because I've solved this before. I work for that company, right? I'm able to spend time and figure out where it goes. If I call you as a consultant to come in, it's going to be harder. There's no question. But I know the specific MAC address, UDP port, and IP address of the data stream that carries the data that's missing, right? With just local tribal knowledge that I have. So it's helpful. So we can focus right on that. So anyway, I can tell him that, right? He can decrypt. And he did a simultaneous wireless and wired side capture and lined up the IP ID field. Awesome. Okay. So proof for him, there were no missing packets. Everyone on the wireless side showed up on the wired side. So awesome. Okay. So data is missing. Station didn't send it. That's the conclusion. Client problem. Okay. Okay. All right. IP ID. So here is a wired capture, just an example. Right? I use a particular filter. You notice I use a MAC filter, right? I use a MAC filter when I deal with wireless because I'm always using WPA and the IP address is hidden. It's encrypted. So if I'm able to focus on MAC addresses on both captures, right, it just makes it easier for me. Here I have access to the MAC and the IP, so it'd be fine. But if I'm using an encrypted trace, and by the way, I decrypt very rarely. There's only certain classes of problems that actually need decryption. Not all do, and I avoid it if I can. And in a lot of cases, I can't. Like if I get a trace from a customer site, you know, they shouldn't give me the crypto material. They shouldn't give me the key, right? They shouldn't be doing that. So anyway, if we could focus on MAC addresses, we do. So I choose that one, and that's what it looks like. That's the data stream. Not that exciting. I put the IP ID field in the column, and then of course you can export that in Excel and do some plots and other things. So that's good. So that's wired. Here's wireless. I made sure I got the EA pulse for him. He's got the key. It's obviously not very useful here. The MAC address is good, so that's there. But of course, you can't see the IP ID or the IP address because it's encrypted. So fine. Okay. No trouble. We decrypt, and there we go. All right. So then I get everything. But again, it's painful to decrypt, right? And if you're doing enterprise, good luck. It's possible, but it's very difficult. Notice here, key index is 0. Again, telling me this is unicast data. That's what I'm looking for, right? It's unicast, key index is 0. That's this column here to the right there, right? They're all zeros. And one of the frames not quite centered is 458. He says QoS data. He didn't decrypt. Any idea why? Why wouldn't he decrypt and the other ones would? Any idea? No, that should be the right index, but he didn't decrypt because he had a bad frame check sequence. This is a bad frame, which on wired, it's actually very rare to get a bad frame, right? You need special equipment. Just your mirror port with your adapter and promiscuous mode probably isn't going to pick one up. In Linux, maybe there's certain Intel drivers I can turn that on, but you need this hardware from our partners out here, our friends, to actually collect bad wired frames. One job I had years ago, we had a 3-phase motor, and that was like a test rack. And I noticed if I took unshielded twisted pair and went near the motor, I could actually generate corrupt wired frames. And I remember getting the developers down to come look because we had never seen them before. We know they exist. We see them in counters, but they're hard to find. Wireless, not so hard to find. They're everywhere all the time, right? That's the big issue is packet loss with that. So the bad FCS. So Wireshark Wireshark couldn't decrypt it, so no trouble. Good. But do I need every frame? Probably not, right? Context. We use context to help us. I don't need every frame. That's fine. That's what it was. That was bad. And by the way, just because the capture system said it was bad doesn't mean the destination said it was bad. The RF environment is subtly slightly different. It may not be the same. Just because I see it doesn't mean he does, and vice versa. It's just something to think about. And you need context of what's happening around you to kind of decide what's really happening and not. So anyway, so we missed that one. Just an example. We had a bad FCS. Also, a lot of adapters don't pass up bad Wi-Fi frames. I don't like that. I want to see everything, even if it is bad. Because what if I have a lot of bad frames and just a few good ones? Isn't that good to know? If I hid those from you, you just see the couple of good ones and not know, but you really have a major problem. So I really want to see everything. And so they don't pass them up, or sometimes they do pass them up, but they don't mark them. They don't set that flag or put the frame check sequence in. Business? Yes. Back in business. All right. Yeah, box of batteries. Well, it was in the beginning. It was like on the second slide or something. Sorry. So useful feature. So we work hard to get monitor mode adapters. It's difficult. So back to our problem again. No missing, sorry. Result, no missing data on wired side from the vendor. That's what he says. So conclude I am crazy because I keep saying there is. Well, I am crazy. Ask my kids, they'll tell you, but not for this. I don't think so. It's the client. Maybe, again, I want to be objective. Maybe, okay, I have defects. Everybody has defects, right? That was a shock to me when I first started in this industry. We actually ship products that have defects. Are you serious? But anyway, it's the real world. Everything's got defects. It's a wired network. No, it's a database. No. Okay. So this is what I wanted. The concept of my control volume, right? Where we measured in and out. What did I get? I got that. And that's not the same. It's not even subtly the same. It's quite different to me. They're using their device to evaluate itself. Engineering best practice. Don't do that. I want a third-party evaluation. I think that's provides for a stronger conclusion. So he gave me that to the right, where he said his device was fine. Well, that was a device under test. He's using it to evaluate itself. I don't like that. Not engineering best practice. But what I wanted was on the left, a third-party Wi-Fi capture and a third-party wired capture. So what did he give me? He gave me on the Wi-Fi side what his radio picked up. Okay, let's look there, right? Okay. And what did he give me on the wired side? What he planned to send out the wired side before it went out. Does that guarantee it went out? No. No, it doesn't. So that's why I want third-party evaluation, if at all possible. So is this ever okay? Of course it is. When you lose your keys at night, where do you look? Under the lamppost. Why? Because that's where the light is. Because you can see. But what is the conclusion you're going to draw when you do that? Under the light. So I can come back in the morning and keep looking. That's different to say it's not under the lamppost, so they're gone forever. The veracity of that conclusion isn't there. I don't have that data. It was dark. So it's okay. You might find problems by using, some of these flawed techniques because they're convenient, they're easy, they're cheap, and we should be looking there. We just have to, calibrate ourselves in the level of conclusion I can draw based on them. So not a Wireshark. Okay. So I'm going to pull up Wireshark and the packet capture, and I have a little say technique that I use. This is how I do it. It's a funnel. What I find was, so I've trimmed this down. Okay, we don't have, hold on. We don't have, let me, is that, nope. Slideshow's off. Okay, packet capture. So, font a little bigger maybe? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, a little better. Yeah, at least you see some stuff like beacon and stuff. So I trimmed this down and there's 7,000 frames. But imagine you've got millions at the end of the day. That's where we end up, right? Or hundreds of thousands to go through. So I like a funnel approach, and I'll use IO graph almost every time. So I'm going to do an IO graph here, right, of all the traffic. I just want to see what's going around. My problem is, right, I can't see the forest through the trees. Of my 7,000 packets, which is the one that's my problem? Well, that's what I'm being paid to find out, right? It's that needle in the haystack. We always deal with it. Wireshark's a great tool, but it's a microscope. It's a surgeon's scalpel. I need to know where to look. If I can narrow that, problem space down, I've got a better chance. So I'm going to look at all the traffic. So this is everything on my channel. Okay, everything on my channel, whether it's my network or not. Do we see anything interesting? Yeah, I'm looking for anomalies. That's what I'm looking for. And then we're going to go hunt those down. I need to cut my problem space down. I can't look through 7,000 packets, let alone, hundreds of gigs of traffic. I just can't do it. Maybe you guys can, I can't. So, okay, I got something there. Interesting. So that's my funnel. That's all the traffic on the channel. Great. What's next? I'm going to look at my network. Again, I don't know what I'm going to find, right? Whatever. I'm going to look at my network, and that's through a BSSID filter. So that's on the, that's all. There's no filter for that. BSSID, I can find out what my BSSID is. My device tells me, or you can find the SSID in the packet capture and pull it out, or the Wi-Fi vendor should be able to tell you. That's all gettable information. There's no secret to that. So I'm going to look at BSSID. And I'll click on that one. So that's the pink line. So we see anything weird about that? Yeah, it correlates, right? Not causation, although likely it is, but it correlates. I get a spike in overall traffic and I get a depression, right? It's retarded, the amount of traffic coming across. This is packets per second. Again, nothing fancy. Why don't we look at that spike, right? If I click on it, let's go. All right, so Action Tech and Apple. All right, who's got Apple devices at home, right? Everybody, right? Don't we all? You should see us when my kids are in college or out of college. But we used to travel as a family, right, on vacation. I used to have to bring my own AP to handle all the iPhones and iPods and tablets and dad and mom's works computers and everything. It's crazy. So we'd have to bring our own infrastructure. But anyway, Apple, Action Tech, I don't know. I'm dealing with Draeger and the vendor who, again, changed the name to protect the innocent here. It's something, whatever. Request to send, that's fine. Look at the signal strength. Yeah. That's far away. 91, yeah. That's really far away. That's far away. Yeah. So I don't see a lot of my neighbor's traffic, but I see some, obviously. Actually, on 5 gigahertz, I don't see any. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. But anyway, yeah, that's not me. It's my neighbor, left, right, behind me, whatever. So, okay, is this important? I don't know, but it's an anomaly. We did see the depression in my traffic because of this. It's interesting. Okay. So the funnel approach,
right? BSSID. Now let me look at my device. I know which device is producing traffic that has trouble. So I'll click on that one. So what does he look like? He's the red there. And actually, let me get rid of him. Let me reset. Yeah, same thing, right? That traffic is retarded as well. Not getting up. Well, so let's think about this for a second. I have data loss upstream. And I have a period of time where I don't have as much data as usual. I don't know, or you wouldn't as a consultant, is this level typical? All you have is what's before that and after that. You don't know if that's typical right before and after, but we do see an event where not as much data is coming across. Okay. Now, again, the funnel, the bottom piece is of that. Let me look at my particular traffic where this data that's missing is coming from. And here's the MAC address for that. And again, I know that because I work for the company and they can tell me. So how's that look? Yeah. Correlates. Yeah. A little tougher to tell here, but correlates. Can we do log scale? Yeah, you can tell. You can tell. Liars, damn liars, statisticians make the graph look the way any way I want, right? So any events to go investigate, do you think we might have? Should we go investigate this one? Since it's missing data? Any others? So let's talk about our process for a second. This is 2DS traffic, right? So it's unicast. So it's protected. What does that mean? If I don't get an ACK, what do? I retry. So if I'm not getting ACKs, isn't that indicative of loss as well? So I'm going to argue in this case, if the loss is present here, again, I don't know that. If it is present here, it's not so much where my traffic is down that I'm interested in. I'm going to look where it's up. I'm actually going to focus on these and say, we're going to go look at packets here in a second, right? We're done with the graph here. Not done with the graph for sure, but I've got a number of candidates to look at. Let's look at maybe this one and this one. Well, these are the extremes, this, and this. So I'm going to grab this one first. I'll click and go. And let's go ahead and make my filter, my traffic 01005E. There we go. So I clicked on that. Ooh. Sorry, I'm going to zoom out. I apologize. There we go. I hope that's visible, but certainly you can see the pattern difference here, right? You see the pattern difference? And now I'll zoom back in and slide over so you can see those. Can I slide over? No. Shouldn't I get, there we go. Shouldn't I get a slider bar? There we go. Where's my mark? Didn't I mark? I didn't mark yet. All right, we'll go back to the graph. Click on another frame number. There we go. So there we go. So let's mark. So here we go. So 2, sequence number 3812. And then what do we see? You know what the R means? Retry. Boom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He sent it 8 times. No ACK. So that's why the traffic graph goes up with loss. There's definite loss here. Look at data rates over there. Do you see the data rates in kind of in the middle of the column, middle of the page here? Starts at 58.5, relatively high, and then drops down as he retries. He's detecting, the rate selection algorithm is detecting you're not there. So let me try harder, which means lower the data rate to go. So more reliable data transmission. So here we go, right? This is a lost frame. This is a lost frame. Is this a client problem or an AP problem? Probably. I'm 99% sure at this point, but that last piece of information, remember I have transmission rules with that nav timer. Could it be the case where the client is sending data when he shouldn't? Could be. Could be. So it'd be nice to rule that out. But from this view, I don't really, I mean, right? I can't tell, right? I can't tell. So this is the inverted funnel. So I focused very much so here on just the traffic that's missing, so I can hopefully see the forest through the trees. We've identified a candidate event. So let's open up the trace, right? So we can get some more context. So let me go to BSSID and filter. All right. So I had a beacon and then my frame, right? And we go down. So I don't know. Channel utilization's there. You see that column? It's 31 out of 255. Very low. That's very nice. Yeah, we want to be under 50%. Above 70 and you're in a lot of trouble. So no trouble. We're very low. Channel utilization, we're good. So what's going on? I basically have one more thing to look at, and that's to look at all traffic. Without that, I don't have anything, right? Nothing I can show, right? We got to go further. So let's just open up the filter, see what we get. So there we go. Boom. There's the beacon. Oh, what's in there in the middle? WTF is a cradle point. Huh. I know them, right? Their company. I don't have any of their products. If I'm at the office, I might see them. But again, I'm in my family room, right? What's a cradle point? I don't know. Huh. Where'd that come from? Okay. Is he affecting me? I don't know. Look at the channel or look at signal strength. Yeah, he's right next to me. And again, I'm in my family room. Yeah, I don't know what that is. So is my son doing something? I don't know. All right, let's see what cradle point. Look at my BSSID. So I'll open up my frame and I'll look at the header, BSSID. Again, this has been sanitized. Down at the bottom, it's 8814. And here, that's Woonsong saying 8814, you know, simple hex change. And this is cradle point 8814. Huh. The last two octets match. Have a look at these signal strengths. That's about the same as my AP. Huh. What about that duration field? Let's go ahead. Seems to be a bug in Wireshark. It keeps hiding the duration field. So we just added it. I'm making it. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. Huh. That's a big number. That's a really big number. Look at the other durations. 0, 52, 40, right? 212, 30,000. So that's 30 milliseconds. Huh. I know what this is. I've seen this before. This is called off-channel scanning. The AP decides to go off-channel for 30 milliseconds and says, hey, don't send me anything because I'm going to go see what's around me. No, not really. They all do that. So you have DFS scanning as well. That's 5 gig, but I'm 2.4. So they just do it to find that maybe they'll change channels to find a better one. Okay. Well, okay. This is valid. Although I'll argue, remember, anybody who hears that 30,000 microseconds is supposed to stop transmitting. So this is rather disruptive, right? Basically, they're shutting down the whole channel with an earshot, right, to do their off-channel scanning. Okay, whatever, but fine. Okay. Yes, 30 milliseconds.
So that perfect says the text packet is not sooner than 30, exactly 30. So it's obeying the rules.
It's 30.1.
Yep.
It's 30.1. So I claim the Draeger device sending that data is valid, right? The rule is he can't transmit for that period of time for the duration timer. But we waited and he didn't accept. AP issues confirmed. We've got you. What's the bug or what's the defect? He's not coming back in time, right? Right. So that's root cause again from layer 1. What's the next Y of root cause? Why isn't it coming back in time? I have no idea, nor do I have the ability to get there. All I can do is ask the upstream vendor, right? I have no clue. All I did was isolate the problem. Okay, hypothesis. He's off channel scanning and not coming back in time. Let's look at the next one. right? Let's look at the next one. We're almost done here. So this one's even bigger. So click, go across. Oh, look at that.
If I may, it also matches the observation of the AP guy that he doesn't see it in his stuff.
Exactly. Yes,
He cannot see it.
that's right. He's blind to this type of problem. This whole class of problem, he's blind to. That's right. So here we go. Looks like we missed two. Right, here's one. And the sequence numbers are the same, right? 5-7, and then we're done in 5-8. We missed two. And here's our friend, our 30,000 microsecond friend. And am I wrong or is the vendor wrong? 303. So no, I'm good. He didn't come back in time. He didn't come back in time. He's gone for a long time. So root cause. Sorry, go to the vendor. That's where we are. Okay, back to our I guess. Yeah. So, right. So I take that funnel approach. Remember, I'm overwhelmed by packets in the pane. I can't do them. So I go to the graph. And then when I go back to packets, I go the other direction. That's all that says, right? So isolate anomalies, that's what we did. Those are candidates we'd look for. Notice I didn't use timestamps at all. Did you see that? I never use wall clock time, like almost never. If I have to look for stuff through a million packets based on wall clock time, I've already lost. It's not going to happen. I can't do. I'm not going to do it. I'm telling you right now. Right? I already. You know how good's your clock sync? How many? Yes. How many packets can come across on a gig network in 1 second? 1.4 million? I don't know. Right? A million? Right? So I'm supposed to step through a million packets looking for a right? How good's NTP? You know, single digit millisecond if you're close by. If not, it's worse. I've already lost. I don't do that. Right. So like you almost never, there are some rare exceptions. You'll never see me put wall clock time in the field. It just isn't relevant. I go to the graph, find anomalies and work backwards. I will at the end, once I think I've found an event, right? Check the wall clock time and see if it's reasonable based on the complaint, but not always, you know. We go there. Also, yeah, notice the hairpin behavior. No one mentioned this. That's fine. Have a quick look. This is, I'm going to look at my traffic again. So this is, again, just this particular multicast traffic. So have a look at the top one, key index 0, 2, right? But right after it, key index 1 from the hairpin. So imagine the job of the AP, right? The wireless frame comes in and we want it to bridge to the wired side. When it's group traffic, what does it do? Turns it back. So it makes 2 copies, right? Puts one back on the wireless side and puts one on the wired side. That's what low-end access points do. Or let's say we call this bridged at AP. So if you're like cloud managed, this is probably what you're doing, right? Is this super optimal? What if no one wants that multicast stream or group traffic, right? You're just putting it out there, consuming channel, right? Taking away bandwidth from others. If you have the really high-end controller-based Wi-Fi, you actually have more options to deal with this because all group traffic would come into the AP, go to the controller can then make intelligent decisions. Do I have a wireless client out there who issued an IGMP and then I can send it back? Otherwise, I won't. So the controller-based stuff for multicast traffic doesn't mean they do it, but they have more capability at having better traffic flows. Just something with one radio, or if you're cloud managed, obviously there's no tunnel back to a controller. You're only getting your config from the cloud, so you're stuck with doing this. So I call this hairpinning of the group traffic in and out. Low amounts of group traffic won't affect you. Large amounts of multicast traffic or broadcasts, it can obviously impact what's going on for you. So we'll finish up here. Yeah, so we had that going on, the hairpin. That's the root cause. We already had it. So we verified, right? We had a look. 2 loss frames indicated on that second event, right? It's enough evidence for me. Push to them, and they took it. They were okay, right? Took it. So vendor is blind to this class of problem, as someone said, right? The AP monitor cannot pick up traffic that is not on the right channel. He can't do it. So he was blind to this and didn't know it, right? Another Achilles heel. This is why I like third-party evaluation, if at all possible. But actually, this is a secondary problem for me. I know this type of stuff occurs with Wi-Fi and group traffic. So I try to disable this off-channel scanning. I set configuration. The true defect here was the system didn't respect the configuration. I checked that box that said don't off-channel scan, and it was doing it anyway. So, okay, that was the real defect, and that's what they fixed for me, because I know this can happen. And then how did we discover it? Well, they had a defect, they weren't respecting the config, and then we detected they weren't coming back on channel at the right time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it. I don't know about you guys. I don't have time to just sit there and look for stuff, right? There's enough work to do otherwise. So impact. TCP traffic can get away with this because you have another layer of reliability. You have transport layer protection mechanism. You get TCP. So if these were TCP packets being dropped, TCP would have detected it and retransmitted. So you could have been okay. The reason it impacts me more here because I have UDP and there's no transport layer protection mechanism. Yeah. So that was the work at home time. So summary here, 2 types of traffic that we have, 802.11, unicast and group. Group traffic handling is a little bit different than in the wired world. Only the AP can send group traffic. All traffic to the AP is protected unicast, which is kind of nice. And group data rates are usually lower, so we like to avoid those if we can. The duration field provides for some virtual carrier sense for us. And we use Wireshark to record and analyze the system behavior to determine root cause. It was very clear here at the first layer of the root cause onion that we have. So capture filters. I cringe with capture filters, I'll be honest with you, right? I don't capture filter until I have root cause. As soon as you do a capture filter, you've made the decision that what you're throwing away is not part of your problem. And I say, is that valid? And you say, do you have root cause? No. Then why do you think that that's valid? No, please give me everything. And you notice, right? The MAC address, Cradle Point showed up. I don't know where that came from. If I was filtering like on my device traffic, I would have never seen that, right? I would, we had the same behavior of loss, but I've been blind to it, right? So don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? Good engineering practice. Don't use the device to evaluate itself, please. Right. Independent tools provide stronger conclusions. You can use it as a first cut, but please understand the veracity of the conclusion that you can make. And I use graphing, extensive use of graphing to try to find anomalies so I can dig in because wall clock time just doesn't work for me. Yeah, very rare to use wall clock time. And finally, so this was 2 years ago, right? So there's been several updates. So right before this, I said, well, let me put on the new version. Let me enable off-channel scanning and see what happens. So what do you think I would see? So I got one more trace, and that's it. Now we're done. One more trace, real quick. So this is the filter we want. What do you think we're going to see? You think it's fixed? Of course it's fixed. Yeah, probably too.
They figure 1 out of 1 million people complain it's not worth the cost of it.
Could be. So, yeah, could be. I respect that business decision. Just be upfront with me, please. All right, so I'm looking at clear to sends because I know it's what I had before and my data frames. Look at that. And so then look here, right? They're still not coming back in time. So imagine, picture this, right? You're the developer and the complaint comes in from me. Well, we don't come back in time. Well, so we could find root cause of why we don't come back in time. Or I just make the time out longer. I don't know what they did. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. I just thought I'd go look for you guys and see what it was. And I saw that and said, 3,100. And then I look and we're still not coming back in time. Could be. Who knows? Don't know. Who knows? So anyway, that's what I found. So.
Maybe the 100 they are losing the development is coming back fast enough?
Maybe. Could be. So anyway. Again, the defect for me was that they didn't respect the config. So I checked that box and this problem goes away for me, right? Customer doesn't have access to this off-channel scanning, but if any of you guys are in the wireless space, a lot of you do your own site surveys and channel selections by hand anyway. So thank you. That's it. Any questions?